Good evening. Welcome to Southeastern 16's Saturday Night Football wrap-up show. I'm Chris Lee, joined by Blake Lovell, Chase Robinson. Got lots of action in the SEC today. Got some stuff going on as we speak. Oklahoma, Tennessee, well into the second half. This one's not over yet, but I think we have a pretty good idea where it's going. Got several games in the book. Interesting one between Vandy and Missouri and Columbia today. That was more interesting than we thought. Some games that weren't very interesting. We had Florida, Mississippi State, which had some stuff coming out of that. But got a couple of – also got A&M in a close one with Bowling Green well in the second half. But let's kind of start from the top. Blake Lovell, your thoughts on what you've seen today, what stood out so far?
Well, I'll just quickly tell everyone, if you're listening or watching this on the replay, if you're a Tennessee fan, if you're an Oklahoma fan, you're probably going to want to fast forward because we're going to wait a little bit longer until that game is a bit more in doubt, although right now it seems like we're getting close. So just know that up front. So if you're wondering why we're not talking about the game, you can fast forward a little bit later in the replay and you'll know that we're going to discuss it. But, yeah, I mean, like you said, Chris, I think Vanderbilt keeping it close against Missouri, I don't know why. I didn't think that would happen because these two have just seemingly always, for the most part, Vanderbilt's kind of been a thorn in the side of Missouri. There's been a lot of double-digit spreads between these two teams over the past, 5-6 years, and for the most part, Vanderbilt's found a way to keep it respectable. So, I mean, they had every chance to win the game. I think if you're Vanderbilt, you're walking out thinking you should have won the game. Probably frustrating, but at least a better performance than Georgia State. Gators, Florida, they got to win. I said coming into this, I didn't think this was a win-win situation, or I didn't think there was any situation where Florida was going to win coming out of this, because I don't think this does anything for Billy Napier by beating a Mississippi State team that is just full-on, rebuilding mode. We knew that coming into the season. And then Arkansas and Auburn. Without saying anything too early about this Oklahoma game, keep in mind Auburn and Oklahoma play next week. And so I don't know what we're setting the over-under on that game, but I would think it's probably going to be a little low based on what we've seen to this point. But, Arkansas will take a road win anytime you can get it, but some frustrations on the Plains.
Chase, what stood out to you today?
Yeah, a lot of Auburn. They went to Hank Brown because of inconsistent play from Peyton Thorne. And then we just see that all over again today with Hank Brown. And I know he looked good against New Mexico last week, but I was really taken back by the number of turnovers again that Auburn is still committing, and just the continued inconsistencies. And I think we all thought Auburn was going to go out and get a quarterback out of the transfer portal. Hugh Freeze, as I've been told, just wanted to stay loyal with the guys that he had. I know, and I respect him for wanting to be loyal to players, but you also need to win football games. And he's not going to win football games with the quarterbacks that he has. And I think that shows there's just so much inconsistency right now for Auburn. That really stood out to me. And I haven't got to watch every bit of the Missouri Vanderbilt game. I want to go back and watch that one. I just saw kind of bits and pieces of that one. But I'm curious as I go back and watch it, and you guys can tell me. And I'm interested. Does that show how Missouri is, or does that show how Vanderbilt is? Like, which team had a better representation of the final score of that game? But I was really intrigued by that one as well.
Blake, to answer Chase's question, I think it's some of both. I don't think Missouri got its A game today. I think what Missouri could have done was really picked on Vanderbilt's corners, and it did in overtime. It got one to Luther Burden. I don't know why you're single covering Luther Burden in that spot, but they were. This was a game that, like, the stat sheet, you look at it, you don't think Vanderbilt's really close. They got out-snapped by about, I think, 18 snaps. So it wasn't really like a script that's set up for Vanderbilt. Now, there were some mistakes. Missouri missed 3 field goals, although Vanderbilt missed 2 makeable ones too. And Eli Drinkwitz made I thought, just a coaching blunder at the end of the first half. They've got the ball, was it fourth and 3 on their 42 with like 13 seconds left. They go for it, don't get it, turn it over to Vandy. They hit one quick pass, and a 57-yard field goal to end the half. So, if you're Vandy, on the other hand, you made a bunch of mistakes. Clearly, they're not top level on the lines of scrimmage and the defensive backfield. But again, it's what we said all year with them. It was always going to be an uphill battle for them, but they've got an identity with Jerry Kill. And Diego Pavi was terrific again. If you didn't get a chance to see him, Chase, he was limited in what he could do because of his surrounding cast, but I thought he was terrific. For Missouri, they're still not connecting deep down the field on a lot of stuff. No, I thought Noel was tremendous today. Maybe the player of the game, ran for almost 200 yards. There were times I wondered why Missouri didn't get him the ball more. Anyway, those are my thoughts, Blake. I don't hope I didn't take too much off the plate for you here, but go at it.
No, I mean, most years we talk about teams after like week 4, and there are some teams where we're like, you know what, that team is legitimately 2 plays away from being 4-0. Like, I think you say the same thing for Vanderbilt. Like, they're really like 2 possessions away from being 4-0 right now. And so I think, certainly they deserve some of the credit here, because if they don't allow the drive with a minute to go against Georgia State, they win that game. Wasn't what they would have wanted in terms of, winning close, but still would have won, but didn't happen. Defense couldn't stop them. And, kind of the situation here where, I'll be honest, Chris, that game going to overtime, like, I thought Vanderbilt was a team that had all the momentum. And I'm like, even had a good setup there, but then they all of a sudden became 2nd and 28. And, and then all of a sudden you're like, momentum's not swinging in their direction. And Burden catches the touchdown 1 play after Vanderbilt had all the momentum. And so, it was just kind of one of those things. But I agree. I think it's a little both. I think Vanderbilt is not as bad as, the team or probably the fans felt like they were coming out of that Georgia State game. Because remember, the Virginia Tech game still existed. And so, but I mean, I think that gives you a little bit more confidence for them going into a bye week. And I think Missouri, again, we knew they were losing some pieces, a lot of pieces on defense coming into the season. And they held Murray State and Buffalo to 0 points each, but that wasn't going to last forever. And so Boston College gave them a game last week. And, like I said, this was a tricky one because the Vanderbilt just kind of always played this team pretty close for the most part. And so, we'll see.
Yeah, I thought Missouri's defensive line made a couple of big plays late in overtime. And also, of course, they hit the kick that Vanderbilt didn't hit with 2 struggling kickers who hit I don't know if I've ever seen a game where both kickers hit a 55-yard plus field goal, which happened. and at the same time, both kickers struggled against just about everything else. So just a weird game. I want to get to Auburn in a minute. And while we got to thank someone here, but why would Chase, you send out that Bo Wallace tweet in our chat. See if somebody can bring that up while I'm doing this. Reminder, we're brought to you by BetOnline, the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. Think you know your stuff? Get in on our $200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of $200,000 when the game's over. Head on over to our online casino, get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of over 150 slots games. Head to the website today to get in on all the action. Bet online, the game starts here. All right, who's got that tweet?
Well, hang on a second. Before we jump into that, let's do a little quick thoughts on everyone who's watching here. We appreciate you guys watching and or listening as always. Again, if you're hopping in the live stream, there's always hundreds of you doing that here on a Saturday night. Be sure to leave a super chat. That just helps the channel. You can make a little quick donation that'll make sure we get to your comment because we usually get a lot. And as you'll see, probably as this Tennessee-Oklahoma game gets close to ending, there will be a lot more of those fan bases in here with probably a lot of thoughts on this as well. So we appreciate you guys. Again, hit that super chat button. You can join our It Just Means More tier as well, $3 or $3.99. And join our membership here at Southeastern 16. But anyways, Chris, let me find what you're looking for on this. If anyone's looking for a novel on the state of this, what looks like Bo Wallace may have kind of gotten something here. Actually, I'm having a bit of an issue on this, Chris. I'll talk about the game, and I'll find it here shortly.
Okay. Well, 5 turnovers today, 2 quarterbacks. Wasn't the prettiest game for Arkansas either, but that throw Taylor Green made, in the third quarter, the 58-yard. That was really something.
Yeah.
I mean, let's start with Arkansas. Big win for those guys. We called it. We said we thought they'd get it. They had to have it. I know that everything coming out of Auburn right now is going to be focused on Hugh Freeze in that passing game. But let's give Arkansas a lot of credit. Needed to get a road win. Auburn's defense is never an easy out, Chase, and they went and got it done.
Yeah, and they did. And I think that's big for Arkansas because you look at their schedule and what's to come. Their next two games for a bye week are A&M and Tennessee. And so, hey, you're able to go on the road, get a win to kind of get some momentum heading into the next two games, which are going to be tough. But I liked what I saw from Arkansas at times. I mean, they turned the ball over as well. They made some what could have been costly mistakes, I think. But overall, I mean, for them to, again, be able to go on the road, it was loud. It was a tough environment. And to get the job done, to make stops when they needed to take advantage. They got 10 points off turnovers, a touchdown and a field goal. So to take advantage of some of these turnovers that they were able to get from Auburn, I think that says a lot about Arkansas. And they looked in control of that game, especially when we got later into the game. It looked like Arkansas was in control.
Blake?
All right. Let me give you some super chat updates here. Ask and you shall receive from our audience here at Southeastern 16. $10 super chat from Birchies here with a hashtag WPS. We know what that means here on the channel. $10 super chat, as we said. Love the content. Yeah, we appreciate that. As always, win is a win. That's right. Anytime you go on the road and win the SEC, don't care who it is, a win is a win. And it counts on the left side of the record column, and that's what you're looking for there. So, yeah, we appreciate watching. Thank you for the kind words and for the $10 super chat to help us do more of these live streams and videos for you guys each week. And also to the Dance King, Chris. I thought that was you, but actually it's not Chris. It's $1.99 here.
Close.
Chase and I were texting. We thought you were the Dance King. But Woo Pig, good win. Next win, A&M. So, yeah,
I'm
Arkansas,
a lot of
A&M.
things, but I'm no Dance King.
You're not that, huh? All right. Well,
no.
That's not Chris's burner account. We can confirm that. But yeah, speaking of accounts, Donovan, longtime listener / caller here at Southeastern 16. Maybe Auburn, Oklahoma will be a good game. Yeah. Well, we'll see Auburn. We'll see Donovan. I mean, somebody's got to win. And at least as it stands right now, as we're recording this, with Tennessee up 22-3 heading into the fourth quarter. Yeah, both Auburn and Oklahoma fan bases probably not too happy with where things stand. So,
yeah, Auburn. I don't know where you go from here. And by the way, and I know it's Akron, but just to rub a little salt in the wound tonight, you've got Robbie Ashford having a big night for South Carolina against Akron, for whatever that's worth. Probably not a lot, but.
All right, Chris. So this is the Bo Wallace tweet that Chase shared with us. And this thing's long. Like, we're not going to read this entire thing. But if you just kind of want to know where things stand, yeah, it's not ideal.
You know, you sometimes you can take former players and what they say with a grain of salt. But a lot of times, especially when you have an offensive coach and a quarterback, you imagine that there's a somewhat of a good relationship. And I always thought that Bo Wallace and Hugh Freeze must have had a good relationship. I thought they worked well together when it was a player coach deal there. But I was really shocked to see this from Bo Wallace. Again, him just kind of talking about his experience with Hugh Freeze and saying that he wouldn't want his son to play for him, and just kind of the I guess what he was getting at is the ego that goes along with not accepting responsibility and putting it on his quarterbacks. Really is what he was getting at, and you hate to see that. I mean, from a former player who's played for that coach, but I don't know Hugh Freeze at all, and so I'm not going to rush to judge him here, but It's tough when you see that from a former player who has played for that coach.
And from what Bo Wallace is pretty well liked, supposed to be a stand-up guy. So I think that's a little alarming. I mean, I've had friends. I don't know Hugh Freeze. I've had friends that did, some that really liked him. But I think that's sometimes the adversity brings out a side of you that goes on display for the public. And Hugh Freeze just is not helped himself a lot of times.
I mean, Donovan's asking the question in terms of like where this team is actually at right now, because I mean that's kind of where we are coming off this, right? It's, you've had some disappointing losses now, and Donovan's like, are we, actually worse than we were a year ago? I mean, I think when we came into the season, like if you were, and I think I was probably more optimistic than some people were. I'm like, you bring in Coleman, you've kind of got some things that feel a little different than last year, and you're thinking, all right, this is where Auburn can sort of turn some things around. But really, I mean, since, they beat up on Alabama A&M, like it's just been obvious since that point, the Cal game and then even New Mexico game, we talked about it. Like there were some things in there where you're like, ooh, not sure. I know they won 45-19, and then all of a sudden you've got this. And then, oh, by the way, I think as we talked about coming into the season, we're breaking down schedules. Remember, I mean, yes, they're going to have Oklahoma next week, and there's going to be a lot to talk about in that game in terms of storylines. But after that, what happens, right? You just got 5 straight games at home, at Georgia, at Missouri, at Kentucky, even Vanderbilt now. I mean, that's looking like a game that's trouble potentially. And then, of course, you've still got A&M and Alabama on the schedule too. So, brutal.
Yeah, and the Georgia, Missouri, Kentucky all on the road. They're not going to be back at home. They're at home next week. They won't be back at home until November.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd still, we've asked it a bunch. How did they not go out and get a quarterback in the portal in the offseason? How, with that offense, with the numbers you put up, how did they fail to do that? I just don't get it. I mean, you brought in playmakers. How does that happen at Auburn?
I'm just saying, like, I mean, I'm half joking, right? But that's kind of the nature of where we are right now. Like, they may have just gotten outbid.
Could they not have outbid Vanderbilt on Diego Pavia? I mean,
well, but
grief.
I mean, yeah, but I'm not saying that's what happened, but I mean, it is kind of wild that like that is an answer though, right? Like that's an answer.
They get outbid on Cam Newton allegedly. I mean,
oh boy, here we go. All right.
Well, Cam Ward, they talked to Cam Ward in the offseason, and he wanted a lot of money, and they weren't going to do that. But can you imagine Cam Ward leading this Auburn offense with these receivers and Jarquez Hunter?
Oh my goodness.
Well, he's the Heisman frontrunner as it stands right now, right? I think he's the favorite in terms of the odds. I could be wrong about that, but they're pulling away from South Florida. I know it's an SEC thing, but that was kind of close there for a little bit. But yeah, speaking of, by the way, I don't want to just make this all about Auburn. We'll get off this game in a second, but to go back to Arkansas real quick in terms of like their outlook moving forward. As we said, we got A&M after that as the game in Arlington as always, and then a very interesting game against Tennessee at home on October 5th, and then we talk about Gauntlet, right? Like they've still got LSU, they got Ole Miss, they got Texas, then they got Missouri in terms of the top 25 teams left. But remember, Tennessee's at home, LSU's at home, Ole Miss is at home, Texas at home. So I'm not saying Arkansas is going to win all those games by any means, but even though, I don't think this is probably their best performance of that they would want, or probably if they're looking up a month from now and they still make some of the same mistakes or something. I don't know if they'll be thrilled, but I don't know. I mean, having that many games like this at home, that's at least something for the Hogs here to build on going on the road. And as we said, a win is a win in the SEC.
The only negative for them today, I think, was that, a couple. They allowed a couple of plays where you just had dudes running wide open down the middle of the field for long touchdowns. That's number one. So fix that. I don't know. I can't remember if Hudson Clark played today or not. Number two, Taylon Green, I think, was below 50% completions 2 weeks in a row. Last week was UAB. You gotta fix that. Got to fix that.
All right. So the other SEC game, which let's just call it what it is. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this one because, as we said earlier, I don't think either fan base is particularly thrilled with where things are right now. And don't worry, SEC football, a long-time regular here. Talking about Tennessee, we're going to get back to your comments shortly because we are going to save the Tennessee. Big Baller Brett's got to go back and delete some tweets about the Vols. So, yeah, you might want to do that pretty quickly, Big Baller Brett. But anyways, we will get to Tennessee, Oklahoma, everyone. If you're joining in live, as we said at the start, we're going to do that last. If you're joining on the replay, fast forward if you want to just hear us talk about that game. But, yeah, I mean, I think that this Florida-Mississippi State game, Florida wins 45-28. I mean, is there a huge takeaway coming out of this? Like, do we think anything is really changing that much in terms of like the trajectory of the program? I mean, they were efficient. I mean, it's not often you're going to see two quarterbacks go a combined 26-28 for 277 yards and 3 touchdowns, the way that Graham Mertz and DJ Lagway did. But anything kind of stood out for you guys in this one?
Well, I think the fact that it didn't look like the players have quit on Billy Napier, and that's what I was watching for in this game. And I've had multiple conversations with people this week about that. You know, just talking like what would make Florida make a change immediately at the coaching position, and that would be if the players had just given up on playing for Billy Napier, and they didn't do that. I didn't see that in that game, and so I think that was the takeaway for me for that game is the players are still in it right now. They knew they had a chance to win that game. They went out and got the job done. They did it, and they didn't give up on him. So I thought that was really good to see from Florida today, because it could have easily gone the other way. Like, they could have easily given up on him, and it could have been that reverse score of Mississippi State winning that game, and Florida would have been deeper in a hole than they already are. But the players haven't given up on Billy Napier yet, and I thought that was good to see.
If you didn't watch the game, you just look at the stats. Total yards, Florida 503, Mississippi State 480. It was more lopsided than the score. I thought Florida had a couple of whoa.
We got an all-timer here. Christian coming in
all-timer.
hot with the $100 super chat. Yeah, SEC baseball or SEC football. $100. Yes, you saw that correctly. I don't know why SEC baseball came into my mind, but Christian, listen, you have a seat reserved anytime you want at Southeastern 16 for a $100 super chat. Yes, we appreciate that. Have faith. There you go. Go Hogs. So we appreciate that. Yeah, anyone else wants to leave a $100 super chat, you are welcome to do so at any time. But seriously, Christian, that was pretty awesome to do that. Hopefully you didn't do that by mistake. Now, here's what I want. I want you to leave a comment and be like, actually, guys, I meant to leave you $1. And you know what? I actually hit a couple extra zeros. But I'm sorry, we cannot refund your money. We are not YouTube. So, but anyways, we appreciate that, Christian.
Yes,
anyway,
thank
back
you,
to
Christian.
the maybe is this towards Billy Napier's buyout, by the way? Although you're an Arkansas fan, you shouldn't want to buy out there. But anyways, back to the game.
Well, that almost made me lose my train of thought. But I mean, Florida got a couple of plays, a couple of touchdowns wiped out. But we had another one of these stupid calls. They called a blindside block on Montrell Johnson. It was one of the worst calls I've ever seen. It was nothing blindside about it. He just whipped his guy. But I thought that they looked good. Graham Mertz came out firing today. I just think that was a pretty commanding performance for what it's worth against Mississippi State. The state's troubles against stopping anything on defense continue to pop up. I've got Florida got run on like crazy today, which is a problem when you're getting that handed to you like that from Mississippi State. And by the way, speaking of state and problems, Blake Shapen has hurt his wrist, and somebody sent me a thing saying he's done for the year. So that's really bad. They went to a backup in the second half who looked okay. Michael Van Buren, 7 of 13 for 100 yards, and I think ran it a little bit 5 for -5. But yeah, I think that just a devastating day if you're Mississippi State. For Florida, again, they look good at some things. I don't understand how the defense has gotten so bad down there. They just don't have dudes anything close to what they used to have. And that's in that state with that talent base. Even when Steve Spurrier was getting all the headlines with offense, they were putting first rounders out left and right on defense. I just don't see dudes on that side of the ball for them. But hey, they got the win today. For the most part, looked pretty good. And, Billy Napier gets to sleep a little easier tonight.
All right, so to circle back around on a couple things, shout out to SEC football. Blake looks younger each year. Don't worry, it's just only in looks. Physically, that is not true. Also, Big Baller Brett's saying that Bruce Pearl is not happy with the lack of football success after they took his basketball NIL and put it in the football. So, although we know Big Baller Brett's also an instigator, and he would never do that as an Alabama fan. He would never instigate anything here on the Southeastern 16 live streams. But that's worth noting. But all right, here's what we're gonna do, okay? Because we are probably gonna, honestly, we're probably gonna spend the last half of this thing answering your questions. If you have questions or super chats, again, be sure to leave those. Christian did confirm, by the way, that it was not a mistake to leave us $100. So we appreciate that. We just wanted to clarify on that. But we will probably discuss Tennessee, Oklahoma for pretty much the rest of the way. Well, not the entire way, but we're going to get into that game. But anything else, like the rest of these games, I mean, we knew kind of coming in, this was a pretty lackluster slate here because you had, games that were all going to be decided by huge numbers. It seemed like, here's what I'm going to do, guys. I'm going to read off some scores, take it wherever you want to take it, and, give any thoughts you want on any of these teams in particular. LSU probably had the most interesting game of the day, maybe, as they had to pull away in the second half. They won 34-17 over UCLA. Kentucky beat Ohio 41-6. Probably much needed for the Cats, coming off of a couple of, as we know, interesting losses in different ways to Georgia and South Carolina. Ole Miss is going to take it to Georgia Southern, as I think Midwest Picker in the chat was asking, are they going to cover the spread? I don't know. We'll see. Not sure if Texas is going to either. They're up 37-3. They're going to beat UL Monroe. No surprise there. Arch Manning under center. We knew that. Jaden Blue having quite a game as usual. And then, Chris, I guess the other one you mentioned earlier, it looks like Texas A&M is going to get the win over Bowling Green. That one will finish by the time we finish. But take it wherever you want, gentlemen, on any of those.
Chase, I'll let you go first.
I was interested in this LSU game with UCLA because this is not like a Chip Kelly UCLA team we've seen the last couple of years. They're not. I didn't think they would be a big of a challenge to LSU as maybe they appeared to be today. And I'm wondering, and I still have questions on LSU. I'm still wondering if the defense, if they made enough improvements on the defense. I think offensively they're going to be able to get it done, but will they be able to make the stops? I mean, and we saw them against South Carolina last week in what was a big game. I mean, they had some calls go their way. There's no way around that in that game, and they got the win. They got South Alabama next week, but they've got a stretch in October with Ole Miss, Arkansas, and Texas A&M that, to me, I feel like we'll really find out LSU at those games. But I can't put my finger on LSU right now, and especially after seeing some of that game today, like still, I'm not sure about the Tigers.
Well, I think everybody's going to hold their breath and find out what the deal is with Harold Perkins' knee. He left the game hurt today. So that's one big thing. I don't think their defense, I mean, we've talked about it before, it's just not what they're used to. There's no way around it. So I think their upside is limited. But you're starting to see some identity in the passing game. Nussmeier, 3 touchdowns, no picks. He's really spreading it around. Like Mason Taylor looked really good today. 8 catches for 77. Can really run after the catch. Aaron Anderson starting to come on for them and become a bigger guy. You knew that they had Kyron Lacey, but now between Taylor, Lacey, and Anderson, that's a pretty good start. And they had a lot of other guys catch balls today. Caden Durham wasn't as good as he's been, at least as good as he was last week. But, you're starting to see some things there. Josh Williams had a decent day. I think offensively they're getting there. I just think their defensive upside was limited to even with Harold Perkins. And, boy, without him, you don't really want to. Let's hope we don't have to ponder that. Now, I thought UCLA was maybe sneakily a little bit better than we thought. Chase, you and I looked at their stat sheet, and some things just didn't make sense. And when you dug in, it was because they've just been awful on third down. So I thought 21 points or whatever that was a lot for a team in LSU that's lacked some answers. So I don't know. There were some boos there today. I thought that was a solid win, and I think this is a good team, but I don't see I don't think there's a playoff ceiling with these guys. Doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, and that's one of those teams I feel like you and I both, Chris, had them kind of on the bubble of, do we put them in this playoff conversation? Do we leave them just out? Yeah, I don't see them as a team right now that I would say yes, they could make the playoff.
Yeah. Blake, what else have we got? You mentioned a couple others.
Yeah, I mean, is there anything you want to grab from Kentucky? Always nice, I think, for Kentucky to have the defense scoring with it. Harrison had a pick six in that one. Texas is going to take care of business against UL Monroe. Jaden Blue just scored again. My goodness, this guy. And then again, Ole Miss is going to beat Georgia Southern. South Carolina's putting it on Akron. Robbie Ashford, of course, leading the way. A huge game for Robbie Ashford. If you guys have looked at or watched any of that and kind of seen the numbers continue to pile up the way they did for him in this game. But and then again, A&M's going to beat Bowling Green. At least they're going to hang on for dear life and beat them. So
I thought Ohio might give Kentucky a tougher fight than that. And I think their starting quarterback was out today. Didn't know that was coming. So that hurt a little bit. But Kentucky got the pick six from Harrison, like you said. Defense was really good. I think the big thing, you just wanted to get Brock Vandegrift looking better today. He's 17-24 for 237, didn't turn it over. They got a little bit of a running back by committee thing going against Ohio. I don't know what that means, although the Mac's better than people think. That Mac's pulled some upsets and played some close games so far. So to me, that was a game where just Kentucky did what it needed to do, and I don't know how much we would take away from that. Although Dane Key had a highlight reel play that if you hadn't seen, it's worth checking out, where you hurdled the defender. But like we had a lot of those today.
Kentucky at Ole Miss next week.
I don't think Kentucky can keep up with them.
I would say the Vegas will probably agree with you on that. All right, so unless there's anything else we want to grab from these other games, again, guys, as always, we'll have our power rankings on Monday. We'll go into these teams a little bit more as we usually do. And this was just a week where you had several SEC games, and you had a bunch of blowouts. That's kind of what it came down to. So we'll sort of reassess where teams are at in the pecking order in the SEC when we put our power rankings on Monday. But if you are watching, again, be sure to hit the subscribe button if you're just joining for the first time, because you will get instant score updates like this from SC Scout Guy, longtime regular here. Final score in Columbia, the Gamecocks 50, Akron 7. So that one is official there. Yeah, that's another good note here on Rocket. That's another one that SC Scout Guy bringing up on that. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask what happened. He had one carry for 1 yard last time I looked. I presume there was an injury there.
Yeah, it didn't look great, but we'll see what happens on that.
And just after he was so good last week, he was finally looking more like what we had seen.
Yeah, I'll check for an update while you guys are chatting for a second. But I haven't seen anything since. But anyways, anything else you guys want to? And then we're going to get into the game, Tennessee and Oklahoma. Of course, we're doing this live, so if you're listening on the replay or watching, we're watching this in real time. Oklahoma just scored with about 8 minutes to go to at least make this a 2-possession game. But I don't know about that. We'll see how it plays out. But anything else you guys want to jump into?
Ole Miss and Georgia Southern not done yet, but
he missed the extra
stat line special from Trey Harris tonight, 11 for 225 and 2 scores. They're going to let Jackson Dart put up a lot of Heisman numbers early. Looking at this, he's still in the game with 11 minutes left.
He's going to catch up to Cam Ward.
I guess so.
As it stands now, so let me see if I've got this here. I'm going to pull up your Heisman Trophy odds from Bet Online. Now, of course, I'm pretty sure this would have been heading into, the games today. But I think as it was standing, I'm pretty sure. Hold on, let me find it here. I think it was Ward and Dart were the two leading the way in the numbers. Milroe was right behind Dart, I'm pretty sure. So, yeah.
Question from Dance King about the Auburn win changing our mind on the Razorbacks. my mind going to this one, they were a pretty good team. I mean, they should be unbeaten at this point. So yeah, I mean, it just reinforced what I thought about them being a good team. In fact, they went down there and won without Taylor Green being really sharp. And I know Auburn had its trouble, but the defense, is made some plays. Auburn's always got some dudes on that side of the ball. Chase, I don't. My mind didn't change about Arkansas because I already thought that was a good team going in.
Yeah, and look, I was just glad to see them finish a game. I felt like they let that Oklahoma State game just slip right out from their hands. What was it? 5 games last year they lost by 1 possession to some really good teams. So they finished the job today, and I thought that was really good to see from Arkansas. They were in a close game at times. They kept their foot on the pedal. They did some good things, and they got the job done. They finished it and walked away with a win. So I thought that was huge for Arkansas. But yeah, my thoughts were that they were going to win this game, and that they're not a bad football team. Like they're so close to, they were so close to that Oklahoma State win. We could be talking about an undefeated Arkansas team right now.
Here's a question for you. We got Arkansas and A&M in Arlington next week. And I'm going to give you a minute, think of a number so that when I say mine or when anybody else says theirs, we're not biasing each other. But what do you think the line on that is?
Is it already set, or are you just trying to predict?
I'm just trying to predict. I don't think
Gotcha.
It's been set, although it could be.
I can't imagine it's more than a field goal in A&M's favor. Maybe I'm wrong
Chase?
about that, but
maybe. Oh, I don't know. I would have probably said that too. Field goal. Maybe 6 to one side. I don't know. I don't know.
6 is about what I was thinking because I still think that A&M's got some. Like in the preseason, we were talking about, can A&M make a run to the playoff? I don't know that everybody's caught up on Arkansas being as good as we think Arkansas is. Plus, that's in Arlington.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna guess it's, and plus just kind of off memory from where the computers have had these teams. I'm gonna bet it's around 6. But Arkansas can absolutely win that game.
I would take Arkansas on the points if it's +6
Yeah.
right now. But we'll see. You're probably right. I think the line's closer to a touchdown, but I'm wondering what's the final going to be. A&M's going to beat Bowling Green 26-20. So I wonder if that sways anything there in terms of bringing that number down a little bit after Arkansas's coming off a win. But I'm curious. We'll see how it happens on there. But shout out to Dance King, by the way, $4.99 on that super chat. We appreciate you. Shout out to Chuck bringing in, also an Arkansas fan, $1.99 on the super chat. We appreciate you. Chuck doing that, and Rusty checking in. Chris, long time here on the channel.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah,
that was the play of the week in the SEC. If you didn't see it, the one that Green, I think he launched that ball from about his 35, and it hit his receiver. I think on about the 1 or the 2.
Anthony Richardson out there throwing bombs. So, which ties into Rusty Richardson leaving the comment here on that. So. There you go. That's good stuff. So, all right. What else were we going to get into quickly? There's that Robbie Ashford stat line we were talking about. 15 to 21, 243, 2 touchdowns, 16 carries, 133 yards and a touchdown. So, nice stat line for Robbie Ashford there in that one, who Donovan said he would like back at Auburn at this point. So, Donovan, we all saw it in the comments. But, all right, let's talk about this game because, I mean, we don't like putting the jinx on anyone. It's 22-9 as it stands now, but I don't know. I mean, unless Oklahoma does something that they have not done this entire game, and that is build offensive momentum, it looks like Tennessee is heading towards a victory here. But hey, we can always change that because we're live. So if it changes, we'll give you different opinions on that. But what thoughts on this game? To this point, guys, with 7 minutes to go, Tennessee has a 22-9 lead, and we can always transition that into the overall picture once it's final.
Tennessee is just Tennessee. I love their defense. We like to talk about Nico. We like to talk about Josh Heupel and in their offense. And yes, it is phenomenal. But to go along with that, to win the games they're going to have to win, they're going to have to play good defense, and I really like what I saw. And again, Arkansas's offense has struggled. They've got some injuries. They're battling some things up front, but still, I thought the Tennessee defense came to play tonight, and this was their first really big test. And I feel like they're checking the boxes off as a playoff team, offensively, defensively. To be, I mean, we're talking about one of the teams I think that'll go deep in the playoff. They have the making to do that, barring they stay healthy and everything. But I really was impressed with the defense, and again, Oklahoma, I feel like, had some opportunities to do some things, and Tennessee was there to stop them. So I like that.
That was a complete physical domination by Tennessee's defensive line. I mean, I'm saying this, there's just under 7 minutes left. And by the way, the offensive line, I think, played decently well too. It wasn't the flashiest night for them offensively, but they're starting, and this is what's scary, they're starting to remind me a little bit of some of those dominant Tennessee teams that Phil Fulmer had. I mean, they haven't given up. Well, they finally gave up an offensive touchdown in the fourth quarter. So that's the first one they've given up since the Vanderbilt game, last game of the regular season last year. So they almost went, 5 full games without giving up an offensive touchdown. That is incredible. We had Tony Basilio on our show Friday, who did a video, it was pre-recorded. You can go back and look at it. And Tony said something that's very interesting. He said, I think this might be the defensive line they've ever had. They can go 12 deep. When we know about their frontline guys, Pierce and that, but the depth was something he pointed to is a reason he thought they were special. No, look, I think that the thing for Tennessee, we still don't know what it looks like when they go up against an elite passing game with the line that can protect. That's no knock on Tennessee. It's just the questions we have about them are getting fewer every week as they continue just to obliterate whatever's in their path. And I know Oklahoma had issues, the offensive line, all that, the injuries. And by the way, Kendall Dolby went down tonight, and that didn't look good.
Mm-hmm.
And he got hurt last week. So the injuries just continue to rack up for Oklahoma. But the way their defensive line played, and I get it, Oklahoma's banged up. But Jackson Arnold was a 5-star recruit. They got dudes in their backfield who can make plays. They got weapons on the perimeter with Nick Anderson and Burks and those guys, and it just didn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the numbers, again, like the thing is what Tennessee, we talk about like how much one play can like change the game. Obviously, the big Thornton catch was 66 yards, kind of gave Tennessee that early boost they needed. But like as I'm looking at it now, remember we are talking about this, and we'll talk about the full picture after the 6:28. Who knows? Oklahoma, if they pull a shocking upset here by coming back and winning this game, we'll talk about it. But Oklahoma had I think had several plays, double-digit plays, but they only had one play over or two plays over 13 yards on offense, right? So like no big plays, and I think that's like always when we talk about these games like this. There's just a couple of those big plays when you're a team like Oklahoma who struggled offensively, how much that can mean just to get those huge plays, get something, that just completely changes the game, right? But they just, again, as it stands right now, just have not been able to do that. And meanwhile, on the other side, right, you had the Thornton play, the Brew McCoy call, that huge one, 40-plus yards. Tennessee didn't get their normal, probably allotment of those just huge 20-plus yard plays. They weren't all over the board, but I just think that it makes it so much tougher, right? Especially when you're going against a defensive line like this, we just cannot find a way to get any huge plays, and you just kind of have to chip away. That's just not easy to do, though, against this team.
Guys, I have a question for you. I was trying to get some stuff ready for the show and running back and forth to the kitchen and making sure devices were charged and that kind of thing. Did Arnold just get pulled for performance, or did he get banged up at all?
He just got pulled.
That's what I thought.
Unless you saw something different, Chase. I'm pretty sure.
No, I think he just got pulled, yeah.
Okay.
But, yeah, I mean, it's interesting to look at, like, the path too, like forward for these teams, because I think it's going to be interesting. Because that's the thing. Like, what is Oklahoma going to do on offense? Like moving forward, like what changes after this week? Like because Hawkins comes in, he did make the big play for the touchdown here late, but what's going to change offensively for Oklahoma? I don't know.
I mean, I know we don't like to do this in real time, but just a couple plays this series, and we're doing this with about 6 minutes left, just encapsulate this game. I mean, Hawkins dropped back 2 plays ago. I think they had a 4-man rush, and there were 3 guys there. He had no chance.
Yeah. I think that speaks to what Tennessee is just.
Yeah.
I mean, said earlier, SEC football said earlier, I don't know if he's still in here, but we talk about best defensive lines in the country. I mean, the way they wreak havoc is just, it's a thing of beauty, because they are just relentless. That defensive front for Tennessee is relentless. And I think, look, that brings up something very interesting because, I was going to bring this up to you guys because, yes, we're obviously going to look at this game and see how Tennessee, was able to control this game in various ways. When you look the rest of the way, and I think this was also asked earlier, like, is Tennessee a true national title contender? I don't think there's any question. Because when you look at how things shape up the rest of the way for Tennessee, I think that to me is what is most interesting. And I'm going to hold off on this for 4th and 14. I was like, if they complete this and they make a 30-yard play here, then I'm going to hold off on Tennessee giving them the win just yet. But Tennessee is off next week at Arkansas, Florida at home, Alabama at home, Kentucky at home, Mississippi State at home. Tennessee doesn't play another. They don't play another road game after October 5th until they go to Georgia on November 16th. UTEP, Vanderbilt. Tennessee could be favored in that game against Alabama on October 19th. I'm not sure where you guys would set the line right now between those two teams, but it would be close, wouldn't you think?
Yeah.
One way or the other. I can't imagine it's a field goal favorite one way or the other there. But if not, Tennessee is probably going to be a considerable favorite in most of the games left, minus the Alabama game. And, of course, they're going to be an underdog, you would think, at Georgia on November 16th. But we don't know that for sure. Depends on what happens with Georgia to that point. So, yeah, I think anyone wondering whether Tennessee can be a national title contender, this path, a game like this was so important because now the path sets up to where, unless they just have a couple of those games where they just don't play up to their potential, which can happen in the SEC, they've got a nice path to get there. So,
yeah, I think the game that I thought could be a sneaky good game was their game with Arkansas in 2 weeks, and I'm not going to say it can't be. I thought that Arkansas with Taylor Green can, might be able to match them a little bit in terms of tempo and style of play, but man, I just don't. The defensive line just continues to be so good. I think that's where they start to separate. I don't see that out of Arkansas. Arkansas got sacked 3 times today. I think that's where that falls apart. Now, it's in Fayetteville. People are going to be excited, especially if they go and get a win over A&M. But, I mean, hey, Oklahoma was up for this one too. Now, I think Arkansas can fight fire with fire offensively better than they can because you guys know what we think about offense. But I just think that defensive line is so stout that's where – I mean, I just think that I'm not sure that anybody other than Georgia and Alabama can hang with them. And I don't know that Georgia – I don't know. I'm not saying they're not. I don't know that Georgia is what we thought Georgia was. And I think that game being in Alabama – I mean, being in Knoxville, to me, I make Tennessee a slight favorite just because of that, Chase.
Their defensive line to me is a game changer. Like that's they are going to change the outcome of games just because they are elite. And so I think they're a major factor. This defense is going to get them to very good places. And Georgia, Alabama, those are going to be tough games for Tennessee. But that Alabama game, it does help that it is in Knoxville. Remember what happened last time. Now, I think Alabama is a good team. I think Georgia's good. I think Georgia is going to play Tennessee after they have already played Alabama and Texas, and so we'll see where the dogs are at then. But that's a late in the season game. I will be intrigued by that one for sure. But just looking ahead at what's to come for Tennessee, to me, there's no doubt, unless barring a major incident, then that they're going to be a playoff team.
Right on
They
cue.
haven't given up.
Yeah, let me give you this real quick, Chris, to
Justin.
piggyback off of what Chase just said, because ESPN just put something on the screen that goes into this conversation. So, they're bringing up their ESPN analytics and the chance to win for Tennessee. At Arkansas, 84% chance to win. Florida at home, 93%. Alabama, 45%. Kentucky, 93%. Mississippi State, 95%. At Georgia, here's what's interesting. At Georgia, 46%. So 45% against Alabama at home. At Georgia, 46%. UTEP, 99.5%. At Vanderbilt, 91%. So those are, obviously these are just numbers, right? But that's a lot of 90-plus percentages the rest of the way. And the difference is this year, Tennessee can afford to lose one of those games between Alabama and Georgia. They don't have to win them all. And so I think, and look, I know we're getting ahead of ourselves here, but I think at some point, I know people still are asking questions about Tennessee, and we're only 4 weeks into the season, but I don't know how you couldn't watch this team to this point and think that they're not legitimate in terms of having a chance to get to the playoff and win multiple games in that setting. Which, Chris, go ahead. What your thoughts are? I want to ask you guys about Nico too after that. So,
well, the Georgia game, based on the computer models I had preseason, Georgia was going to be about a 16 to 17 point favorite in Athens. And Chase asked me a question on our weekly football show. Did I think Tennessee would be a favorite in all games? And I kind of laughed. I said, well, no, because you got Georgia and Athens. That game has sneakily come down to about a 4 or 5 point Georgia lean, according to computer models. And it's probably going to tilt a little bit more Tennessee's direction after tonight. I still think Georgia will be a favorite because that's in Athens, but I could make the case that as we're sitting here watching Tennessee tonight, that's the best team in the country. I need to see them do something against bigger opposition, and Oklahoma should have been the test. I think Oklahoma's offensive line is so beaten up and disjointed right now, as is the quarterback play, that I want to see that against an Alabama or somebody like that we know can play offense. But man, the look test, they pass everything.
I was going to mention too, tonight, especially against Oklahoma, it wasn't just Dylan Sampson, right? Dejon Bishop had some really good runs. I mean, as it stands now, 16 carries, 65 yards. But we know the offense is still around Nico, and I was going to ask you guys, through 4 weeks now, what are your thoughts on, what has stood out the most with Nico? Is there anything you're okay, I'd like to see that, this, that, whatever? What has been your overall? I don't put you as teachers here to give you grades, but how would you kind of look at that from Nico's performance thus far? And as I say that, Oklahoma just asking you shall receive, Oklahoma. I said you don't have any big plays tonight. They just hit one for about 50 yards to get this closer to being interesting. So,
Chris, I'll let you go first on that.
Well, I guess that'll be the first time anybody's gone over 200 yards against Tennessee this year. Probably not in the Iowa game either. I'd have to look that one up. When I watch Nico, there's still – I don't want to say raw because that sounds condescending, but, he has turned the ball over some. I did see him throw the ball behind an open receiver or two tonight, and that's to be expected, right? He's a kid who is, was a volleyball player a lot of his life, and so that explains a lot. But to me, that makes him scarier. If they're this and he's a finished product, then you kind of feel like where the parameters on this thing. That's the thing; he can get so much better. I mean, you can look at it that maybe that'll be a thing that costs them a game at some point. But, man, I mean, if you need anything to scare you more about playing them, it's the fact that I think he can get a lot better. Is that fair, Chase?
Oh, I completely agree. And I think we see him getting better every week, and he's just going to get better every week. I feel like, and yeah, he's a scary guy to face. I mean, he gets it done. Like you said, he's not perfect. I mean, there's not a quarterback that's not gonna, turn the ball over or make a bad pass or throw it behind somebody or lead them out too far. Like that's part of the game. But I think Nico recovers well when he does make mistakes. He doesn't get down. He stays up. He recovers well. I think that says a lot. He's very composed and poised, it seems like. And that's, to me, characteristics of a really good quarterback. And so I think we're just going to see him get better. I really like watching him. I think he's a fantastic quarterback. And, yeah, this is just the beginning of what I feel like is going to be an incredible career for Nico.
All right, so this is going to be the greatest live stream ever if Oklahoma scores a touchdown here and then comes back and gets the onside kick and scores another one and comes back from a deficit. But, yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get there if that happens. But, all right, so I was going to ask, too, about – actually, I'm going to wait a second on Oklahoma because I do want to get back to Oklahoma and we'll kind of chart their path forward in this game, too, as we look at their schedule. But I'm looking at this like, Chris, I feel like we've done this before. We're like, you go in, you start a live stream, and you're thinking, okay, we know what's going to happen. Like, we know how this game's going to end. And then all of a sudden, you get like 2 plays, and the game becomes a lot more interesting, and you're thinking, all right, we're about to have the full-on jinx for somebody here. But we'll find out. I'm going to quickly run through, before we finish up with Oklahoma, we might have to wait for this to actually go final now because we'll see if Oklahoma scores a touchdown here. But shout out to Sam Smith earlier. He's in Norman, Chris. He can't hear. He forgot his AirPods. His Sooners aren't ready for the SEC, he said. So we know Sam is,
Sam's got a lot of
fan.
allegiances, I've noticed. Have you noticed that, Blake?
Yeah, he's a big Vanderbilt fan.
I think he's claimed Chattanooga, Vandy.
He's a fan of the moment. That's the way I like to describe Sam.
Sam's a fan of the moment.
Fan of the moment. So Justin Holland also checking in. It just means more tier here at Southeastern 14, $3.
Justin, we're going to need more than $2 to answer that.
Yeah, you're going to have to give us the Christian $100 special if you want us to answer why am I a Vandy fan as your question. But he also gifted a Southeastern 16 membership, so you only have to give us $96 if you want us to answer it now instead of $100. It's funny, Justin, you may have just tuned in, but Chris actually said this earlier. How good would Diego Pavia be in a Hugh Freeze offense? We actually mentioned that earlier. So why didn't Auburn just go get him? So he'd be pretty good. What does this loss mean for Vanderbilt, Chris? We can answer that one quickly from Justin. $2.
I think their fans aren't in the. They don't want to hear moral victories. Clark Lee didn't. Was asked about it today. He didn't want to go there really. Nobody used the word moral victory, but you know what I mean. And look, year 4 Clark Lee, they should be further ahead. But they are looking like a team. You see where their deficiencies are. It's still, but I mean, I think they have come up with a plan to really make themselves competitive. They have closed the gap between them and the rest of the league. Now when they play Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, it may get ugly. But I really like the plan. This season would feel a whole lot different if they had not wet the bed against Georgia State last week, which is also part of it. But I feel like they've been super competitive in 4 games so far. Came down to the last play in 3 of them, and then your obligatory blowout of an FCS team. But I think you can see the plan coming together. Now I don't know if they can continue to fund it in NIL. That's a tough ask at Vandy, but I like what they've done. So
there you go. Justin follows up with a $10 super chat asking why. I mean, that could apply to so many things, Justin, with just asking that question. So you have to be more specific with another super chat, perhaps, to ask that one.
I'm picturing Nancy Kerrigan.
That's I'm not sure you want to picture that.
No.
In terms of what led to that. But Chuck asked earlier, forgot to bring this one up, $1.99 super chat. Where's Bobby's passing offense? Of course, he's referring to Bobby Petrino and the Arkansas Razorbacks.
I think he's got one. His quarterback's just a little scatterarmed at times.
Yeah, I mean, I think it can be there. I think we'll see it. I think Auburn did cover the pass well at times today. But and when there wasn't an opportunity for him to throw, what I like about Taylon Green is he just tucks it and runs, and he got some first downs by doing that. And so I think it's there. I think you just gotta it'll come out eventually.
Blake's ahead of us. Let's see what
Oh
happens.
boy. Well, you're gonna see what happens, and then you're gonna see what happens after what happens. Boy, there's a teaser. Because just pure again, it's like anytime we start these streams, like this happens all the time. Where you just now we've got a touchdown on the other. I don't know what's going on here. Of course, the most chaotic play in the game can happen with 155 to go.
I think that was incompletion, wasn't it?
Or they threw multiple flags. Like
They
what
did.
are the? Yeah, like so I was trying to figure out what they were doing here on that one. But I've got it on mute, so I don't know. Like, is it?
Well, this is interesting. They stopped the clock on the TV, and then one official signals touchdown, which I think
it's not like roughing the passer, right? No.
What if it was like a false start or something?
That's what I was trying to figure out. I'm like, I don't know. Well, he may be roughing the passer. He's grabbing his helmet.
Oh, I hate that call. You should never. Well, okay. Giving them another set of downs, that's fine. I don't like it when it overturns scores.
Yep, I knew it. I told you, roughing the passer. Like again, I know people.
That was a fumble.
It doesn't matter.
Oh my
it's
goodness.
Roughing the passer.
I know it doesn't. That's such a.
Oh boy,
we saw that last week against South Carolina.
Yeah,
I hate that call. They need to change that in the offseason. Fine, put that on the kickoff. That should not overturn a score.
Wow. Again, guys, I thought we were done here. We were about to wrap up with me asking, all right, Oklahoma has lost this game. What's next? And we were going to wrap up this stream, but it's not official yet. Like, it's 25-9. It's a 2-possession game here. First and goal for Oklahoma. So if you're listening or watching on replay, this SC Scout guy is getting flashbacks.
That was roughing. How is that roughing the passer?
He turned his helmet, right? He grabbed the face mask, turned it. I don't know.
Is that what it was? Okay.
He grabbed the face mask and turned. Gave a little bit of a pull there.
By the way, is Michael Hawkins their quarterback next week?
Well, that's what I asked earlier. Like I think if you're at this point with Oklahoma, you're coming off a game like this, don't you just ride the? I don't know if hot hand's the best way to put it, but. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, hot hand feels a little strong when you've thrown for 130 yards. But
all right, Chase, your work here is done for the night. We're letting you off for the evening. Chase has been glued to the screen for 42 hours today, so we're going to let him hop off. And we're going to hang on until this game finishes just to make sure there's not improbable. I know what Chase is thinking. He's like, you know what? If Oklahoma comes back and wins this game, I don't want to be on the stream because you don't want to see all the comments. But everyone give your applause for Chase. Another fine performance here at Southeastern 16.
I appreciate it. And I will see you guys later.
See it. You know what? I want to see. I want to see a flag fest here, just to see like how many plays inside the 10 it takes them to score.
They're gonna score, Chris. Here we go. Like this is again. Like we would be done here, but okay. Sorry, Chuck. Let me quickly get to this. You asked me a minute ago about memberships. Yeah, you can join. Anyone wants to join the It Just Means More tier. It's $3.99 a month. It's a donation tier is what it is. That just allows us to make more videos, do more live streams for you guys. There should be a join button. If you're doing it on mobile, there will be a little $sign, a little heart, I think, something like that. That may be the super chat. You guys have to let me know. Justin, you're the MVP of the join stuff. Why don't you help Chuck out here? And yeah, it's somewhere on there. I promise, Chuck. Or if you get if you're on a computer, it'll say join or something. But on the mobile version, I'm not sure exactly. But we appreciate you wanting to join. We'll find a way to get you there.
Okay, I think that touchdown was like the poster play for this game, and I know they scored a touchdown. You're like, what? That was one of the hardest 2-yard runs you'll ever see. They had guys everywhere. We just asked if Michael Hawkins is the quarterback next week. I'm not sure he's the quarterback next series after that hit he took to get in. That sent him literally. He did a complete flip, got undercut, landed on his back, took him a minute to get up. I guess he just got the wind knocked out of him. But man, that just shows. I'm like, even when you get a touchdown and it's 2 yards, you pay for it.
SEC guy says that touchdown would have earned the bronze on the balance beam. So again, guys, we're going a little longer than we usually do on this because we were going to wait for this game. We know there's a lot of people tuning in for our thoughts on Tennessee, Oklahoma. But this is one where we're just waiting to make sure this thing actually ends the way we've talked about it ending, because Tennessee is, again, kind of been in cruise control a bit. But
Gosh,
Oklahoma's
did the ball ever
making it
cross the
interesting.
goal line?
So we'll find out. And guess what? If you're listening on the replay, you already know if the ball crossed the goal line or not. But shout out to Christian, become a new member of the It Just Means More tiers. We appreciate Christian joining. Has already set the record for Super Chat, $100 Super Chat, and now becomes a member. It Just Means More here at Southeastern 16. So appreciate it, Christian. All right, Chris, Oklahoma. Where does Oklahoma go from here? I'm just going to ask that question in general because game is not completely decided yet. They're at Auburn next week. They get an off week the following before the Red River rivalry against Texas on October 12th. South Carolina at Ole Miss. They still got some tough games. We talked about that Oklahoma schedule, having Tennessee, Texas, at Ole Miss, at Missouri, Alabama, at LSU, and they got South Carolina in there too on October 19th. So, yeah, not an easy schedule the rest of the way for the Sooners either, and that's why you mentioned getting that quarterback situation, or just, probably mostly the offensive situation figured out is going to be very key for the Sooners.
I don't have any idea what to think of that game next week.
Oh, that's wild. I want to know what do you think the spread's going to be? Just take a guess.
It's at Auburn.
Oklahoma's got to be favored, right?
Do they ever do pick'ems anymore?
I think Oklahoma's got to be favored. I don't think they're the underdog going into Auburn. I mean, no offense, but Arkansas just won as an unranked team going in there. Oklahoma's going to go in.
They're probably
not number 15 favorite, but yeah. I'm looking now, so there are a couple numbers out there as it stands right now. I haven't seen the Bet Online number yet, but I will tell you there are a couple numbers out there. 2.5 and 3 is what I'm seeing in Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
Yep.
I think that's a first 1 to 10 wins.
Yeah. I don't know. That over-under is going to be interesting. I'll tell you that. I'm very fascinated to see what that starts. It looks, well, I don't know. I'm looking at one here, 53.5. That seems high to me.
53.5 for an over-under?
There's only one service I see at 53.5.
There's no way.
So let me just tell you that. That's a number that was probably set a while back, is my guess. I don't think it's been set.
Are we getting 4 pick sixes?
That number's going to go down, I can tell you that. I feel pretty confident about that number going down. So, anyways.
So is the ball on the 1-inch line here?
It's there.
What are you doing going out of the shotgun?
It doesn't matter. I think he got in, didn't he? Actually, I don't know if he did.
I'm behind you.
Shout out to Justin. Yeah, I want to know if he was replaced by the Walton family. $5 super chat. To drink more, to donate more. You can do whatever you want to do, Justin. We're not going to give you advice on that, but we appreciate it. Well, we racked up the super chat money. We appreciate you guys tonight.
Justin is I think our biggest super chatter ever. I think he's still got the all-time record, even with the $100 donation.
Has gifted lots of memberships. He is, I mean, we got to put Christian into co-MVP now for the $100 super chat,
right.
But Justin is definitely an all-timer in terms of frequency. So,
Justin, how are you coping tonight?
Chris, here's what I want to know. If Oklahoma were to pull this off and somehow they get an onside kick, convert another 2-point conversion, will this be, I think this live stream will go down as, I mean, we might go in another 5 hours if that happens. I may be doing it by myself, but...
Well, we won't be the only one because there's not many Oklahoma fans left.
No, they'll be coming in if they win this game. If they get this thing in overtime. But again, we're trying to we appreciate you guys watching and listening. We usually don't go over an hour. That's kind of our goal here, but we have to just to see what happens at the finish of this game.
Well, look, if they get the onside kick here, they better recover it inside Tennessee's 10.
Okay, never mind. All right, that's game over, Chris. Now we can
okay.
Breathe a little bit, because I'm like, you. Anytime we do this, there was one game a while back. This was probably a couple of years ago. We did, and it came down to like the final play. We went in talking about how the game was over. It would look like it was done for, and it came down to like the final play, and we're like, oh my goodness, we're about to have to do another, flip this whole entire live stream and talk about this other team winning. So that's why we always kind of wait. But all right, let's talk about this now, because now you're gonna have a miracle on top of a miracle if you're Oklahoma. Like we said, Oklahoma's schedule the rest of the way is not easy either. But I think, boy, coming out of that game next week, you want to talk about, as we said, I think both fan bases certainly frustrated with their offense, Oklahoma and Auburn right now. But man, somebody's got to win that game. Somebody's got to lose that game. And I still think Oklahoma's the better team. But like we said, I think now we try to figure out exactly what the offense looks like next week with Hawkins and see where they go from here. So,
yeah, let's see. Next week we got Georgia, Alabama. We've already previewed that. Arkansas A&M, I think, is really intriguing. I think Auburn, Oklahoma is intriguing, not in the way we hoped. Kentucky, I wish the Ole Miss Kentucky game was in Lexington. That's the scenario I could see that being interesting. But who am I kidding? I think Ole Miss would wax them either way. Yeah, that's about it. Texas, Mississippi State. God help Mississippi State after losing Blake Shapen. They're going to have a rough year. I think they might have won their last one. No, they got UMass on the schedule. So
I think 2 is probably the number a lot of them are looking at for there, maybe. Yeah. So not ideal, to say the least. Trying to find some early look-ahead lines. I'm not seeing – well, I know they're out there, but I'm not seeing them yet on Bet Online. But like you said, I think that it is something where you look at the way this sets up for some of these teams heading into next week, and pretty big slate, like we said, especially with Georgia and Alabama. Tennessee getting a nice week off. Oklahoma and Auburn important for multiple reasons, as we mentioned. We talked about an Ole Miss game. Coming out of today, though, Chris, we're going to wrap this up shortly. We appreciate you guys watching. Give me your MVP of the day in SEC football. Be a player, be a team, can be anything. Anything you want to throw this way.
Tennessee's defensive front.
I was going to say the same thing, so we kind of stole each other's there.
All right, let's find an honorable mention.
I think you could probably. Let's see. Yeah. There's a lot. Again, like I mentioned, like Robbie Ashford put up a great stat line, those kind of things.
Ashford,
we can always.
Graham Mertz was great today. Diego Pavia kept banning the game.
He was one that I came up with and thought, that's not bad. Jaden Blue had a huge game, by the way. We didn't really fully go into that one, but he had another big game. But it was against UL Monroe, so not to take anything away from him, but
you know what? Well, Trey Harris going 11 for 225 and 2 touchdowns.
I feel like it's just a given at this point, right? It's like
and they're playing all these overmatched teams against overmatched. But it's getting late. They're playing against all these teams that they have overmatched. No, Justin, not the Vanderbilt pass defense.
Oh boy! All right, we're finishing it there. There you go. There's some thoughts. Again, guys, we always appreciate you watching. We know the last part of the stream, we're just waiting for this game to get over. So, yeah, we were kind of all over the place. But, again, we always appreciate the interaction, a huge super chat night. Remember, if you want to join in, we just kind of have fun, have a party here on Saturday nights. The live streams, we usually start, going to the fourth quarter, the last game each night. So, whatever kind of the prime time is. So next week, Chris, Georgia and Alabama is your late game. So that's going to be, one that we'll be doing as it's probably still in progress towards the end. Always have a good time here, and we appreciate you guys watching. So,
can I gripe?
Sure.
This Tennessee-Oklahoma game started at
Oh boy, I know what's
here we
coming
go.
here. Here
It's
we go.
6:30. Why are we still
Yep.
playing football at 10:30? And let me look up the number of plays in this game.
Oh boy. All right, everybody. Send your super chats for Chris's ranting.
And by the way, why have you still got Nico in the game?
Yeah.
Just sit on it and with your backup. Okay, you've had let's see. Tennessee's thrown it 21 times and they've run it 50, so that's 62. Oklahoma has run it 34. Excuse me, run it 36 and passed it 30. So that's 70 plays for Oklahoma and 71 for why is a 140 play game going 4 hours?
Right here. A lot of discussions that are had. But no, I
have a friend officiating that game, by the way.
Well, maybe you should ask him.
I should.
It just means more, and Chuck says it just takes longer. That's the slogan. How about that for SEC football? Just means more. It just takes longer. So, just quickly, we'll finish up with
that's 240 minutes for 140 plays.
That sounds about right to me. How SEC Basketball Media Day is October 15th. So 3 weeks from now
I think
or so.
we'll be there. At least I'll be there.
There you go. All right, Chris, wrap it up. We've already gone long here.
Yeah, let's see. Big win for Tennessee. Survival win from boy. The story tonight is if Vanderbilt to pull that upset, we'd have a much different discussion about Missouri, but we won't. Nice bounce back win by Kentucky. I guess any win at this point is a good win for Florida. I thought LSU's win was maybe better than the fan base gave it credit for being, and then from there, a bunch of blowouts. But next week it gets real. We've only got one game next week not involving an SEC team on the SEC schedule. No, we don't. We have none. Okay. LSU plays South Alabama. I'm sorry. That's the only one. And then we've got, 5 teams with bye weeks.
We'll be here to talk about it.
We will. Thanks for watching. Thanks to those of you who left a super chat. Thank you to our presenting sponsor, Bet Online. Thanks to Blake. Thanks to Chase. Thanks to all you out there. God bless you. We'll see you again soon at Southeastern 16 presented by Bet Online.